Here. Hello, Elvis. We're going to point you out. Yeah, you're welcome. And this is probably going to be my last talk from The Guardian, because I'll be leaving in a month or so. I don't actually know a final leave date. So this is a bit more of a, let's say, indulgent thought piece around things I've wanted to talk about. It might not make any sense. I don't really care. I'm going to have some fun. So I'm going to show you a few examples around innovating in large organizations. So I think that there's a bit of a challenge around bringing along old baggage when you're working in big companies. And I don't think that's necessarily specific to companies that have been around for a long time. It's big organizations that have a single product that do something really interesting that then try to do new things. And I think the way I would try and argue this point to solve it is focusing on the way people use the tech rather than the tech itself. So I've seen companies, and I work in a company where new tech comes along, we jump on the bandwagon and go, oh my God, we're going to use that thing and we're going to do amazing things with it. And it kind of just does the same thing as we've done before. So, this was because I watched loads of 50s B movies with my kid, because she can only see in black and white, apparently. And she loves them, so I was like, just a bit of an homage to old stuff. Hopefully, this is the last slide where I do that thing. So I'm going to talk about innovation, mostly about content, the future of it, where I think it's going to go, how we actually sort of push this in the right areas. And yeah, the future. So does everybody recognize this movie? Yeah? No? Oh my God. This is Minority Report. I love this movie. This is a fantastic future movie. It was set in 2054. And what I love about this movie specifically is that they got people involved who were futurists who would predict where the technology was going to be. Now, that was 2002, this film was made, and this is 2054. So now, 2017, some of this stuff is here, right? It's not quite as, this is pretty, this is sexy, this is cool. I mean, look at these cars. This is Tom, this is actually, if I'll put this talk up, look at how badly CGI'd this is. It looks like a cardboard thing. I mean, this isn't going to happen by 2054, right? But how many people know of Waymo? I didn't know that this is what Google's self-driving cars were going to be called. And how many people have seen the stories of how far out self-driving cars are going to be? They're 30, 40 years. Some people say 5, 10 years. It's is that going to be sort of fit with where self-driving cars are going to be? Are they going to look like this? Because that's not sexy. I mean, look at the inside. This is just a car. How cool is that? You believe how hard it was to find the interior of that fucking car. Anyway, I think a lot of this is down to two things. I think it's down to familiarity bias and baggage. I think baggage is a big problem when it comes to big companies. Familiarity bias, I've written this down because someone told me it and I still don't understand it. It's something which is in a bigger, what's called a trope of a manufactured normalcy. And a manufactured normalcy is mechanisms that operate to work to prevent us from realizing that the future is actually happening as we speak. Right, yeah. Familiarity is, it's how much we recall and accept change, right? So acceptance, baggage is acceptance over time. So we'll accept that self-driving cars will exist if they kind of look like what we've got now, right? Right? Okay. This is our baggage. This thing on the left. It's the newspaper, isn't it? Amazing. It's, changes people's lives, holds people to account, does amazing things for the world, right? As far as everybody at work tells me. But we are part of the establishment, one of those industries, the media industry. You'll hear me say industry a lot. And our baggage is the newspaper. So we put this version of this in literally everything. You name it, watches, Alexa, voice control things. We stick this kind of idea into all the new technology, see how it sticks and that kind of things. And this is not just specific to us. So I'm going to show some examples. You might disagree, but again, I'm speaking, whatever, watch it. Spotify. Streaming music changed the world. It's 3-minute songs on albums with square pictures that go in CDs. That familiarity comes with Spotify. That baggage comes with them. And Paul Adams does this really interesting point. I think it's Paul Adams. He's VP of product at Intercom, where people focus on the technology rather than what it enables. And so the phone now, obviously it didn't right at the beginning, but the phone did incredible things to change how we could produce this content, what we could do with the content. But the problem is that you still drag some of that baggage with you because you want to try and get people on board of what you're trying to sell. And this is me trying to badly reframe it as in terms of content, is companies will often put familiar stuff inside the future. So Alexa might be amazing and it might do loads of things. It tells me the weather. I mean, it reads the news to me. So futuristic. Oh, incredible. But that's not to say that music isn't being innovative and challenging. Has anybody heard or listened to The Life of Pablo by Kanye West? Oh, because one hand. It's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. A friend of mine did a talk and argued that Life of Pablo is the first example of a musical piece of software. So he's actually pushed changes to his album. Does anybody know this? He's actually rewritten pieces of code. Yeah, he's rewritten them as pieces of software and just pushed up new versions of songs. Loads of people do concept albums. Beyonce did that like 1.5-hour concept video and then kind of released it as an album. So people are pushing the content of music in very different ways, but it's not the norm. This is now the norm, but it's still kind of the past. Sorry, I'm banging on about the old stuff. Netflix. Who's got Netflix? Everybody loves Netflix. Posters, 30-minute TV shows, 2-hour movies. It's pretty much the same, right? We're not talking massively innovative stuff. Now, I know that Netflix do A/B testing their posters, but look at when you Google movie posters. Oh my God, it's the same, it's pretty much the same thing, apart from some of the really weird ones, like Fucked by a Bear, Fuck Canada, and another Matt Damon rescue mission, which gets even worse when you think, look at this. Apart from the fifth one, what if 2 of these movies were out at the same time? What the hell, what does he do? Right, anyway. So, we've been around for a long time, 200 years, 200-year anniversary is coming up in 2021. Not much has really changed in terms of the content, as far as I can see, or as far as I would think. We've had a lot of changes. By the way, these icons across the bottom are the changes in mass media. So we've got books, newspaper, radio, TV, internet, and crazy. I don't know what to call the last one, but there you go. There is someone who I can't really pronounce his name, called Toby Honan, who argues that there's 6 forms of mass media and mobile is the 7th. Take that on board. But as you can see, the very first time we did papers, we've got headlines, body copy. When we changed it from Manchester Guardian to the Guardian and moved to London, we've got some images. By Guardian Unlimited, we've got color on the internet, ooh. And then the latest innovation, which is on mobile, but it's made up of pretty much the same stuff that it has always been made up of. Pages, canvas, grid, typography, graphical ads, spelling mistakes. And all the other papers do roughly the same things. We've got authors, header copy, bylines, media, and so on. And this doesn't change when you get to other other media companies. And if you get into what we call in the industry wires, which is where a lot of news content can come from, you're taking the same story and you're splitting it 4 or 5 different ways. So what makes us different to, say, Breitbart? I mean, well, yeah, bad example, but I had to put something in a talk where I had Breitbart because, come on, apparently their headlines are designed to make you immediately disagree with what's been written. But I don't, maybe they're a perfect example. So I'm trying, I guess when I was writing the last few of these slides in a couple of seconds, trying to think of how to distill this into an actual problem. I think the problem is, if we don't realize a way to differentiate ourselves in terms of how we present our content, we will end up becoming something of either a Luddite, or someone will change this into, will become the old hat. Or worse, will become reinterpreted by another generation into something completely different. Like, oh, remember news? Yeah, it's not like that. It's like this now. And we get left behind. And we don't want to be like that. So, as I said before, we're trying to think of ways to change internal thinking by focusing on people and how they use the technology rather than the technology itself. We use lots of other people's techniques and lots of other things that you might have got in talks tonight. One of the biggest things we do is trying to instill this design culture thinking across the org, and one of the biggest ways we do this is, which I love the fact that especially in big orgs, people won't really recognize that a thing is a thing until it's in a book. I don't know how many other people think this. So this is an example of us doing Google Sprints. We have actually done sprints in The Guardian since years ago, since it was an early blog post, and we talked to the guy at Google and we got some insight, and we did sprints and people weren't that interested. Now it's a book. Oh my God, best thing ever. But, and crucially, we don't do Monday to Friday sprints all the time. A lot of times what we'll actually do is do single day sprints, and we'll spread them out over 2 or 3 days, because we recognize in big orgs that a lot of people are really, really busy, and we're only going to have maybe 5-10 minutes with each person. And so it's really important to get most of the information out of them as quickly as possible, so we can then talk as a team together and just bring people in. So a lot of times we'll actually start with something called Ask the Experts, and we try to distill that over an entire day. And in between all those times when people are coming in, we do vision pieces. We think of the future, how can we get there? And every time we learn a new piece of information, we sort of go back to the start and then work our way back to the future. Another technique which we've been using since a year ago is something called an opportunity solution tree. Has anybody heard of this? Yeah, you put your hand down. No. You've known it for anybody who's known it for more than a week.
I'll ask him what it is.
What is it, Elvis? Can you give me a, I mean, I'm not even going to give a much better answer than I'm sure you can. So this is a technique by a really smart, straight-talking lady called Teresa Torres. And I can't say enough how simply she can take these really complex problems and put them into nicely defined solutions or areas to explore. And she talks about this thing called an opportunity solution tree. So the reason to do this, I've only got one slide, so I'm not going to go into huge detail. But basically, what people will do is either start with some sort of outcome as a problem and either justify the means by making an experiment and work their way between those two to figure out how quickly they can justify that as a reason. And now what this actually does is it prevents you from then thinking of other ideas and also makes you fall in love with your own problem. What this is really good at is getting people to come up with, what we basically do is we turn the problem they have into an outcome, so we turn it user-facing, and we then create these opportunities against that. So there's no number of opportunities is too many. You can just keep going and going and going, as long as they fit against, and this is crucial, when you go into either a lab or you talk to people. So you use these opportunities as assumptions, and once you validate them, you turn them into actual opportunities. Then this level is not exactly always needed, but it depends on how many ideas you want to come up with. And you end up with basically a nice tree of fairly focused solutions, and you run very quick experiments. So the opportunities and the solutions are the key bit. The experiments are very much throwaway. A lot of people, when you go into workshops and you do this, everybody comes up with experiments almost immediately. What we can do is this. And then you have to work them back up to, okay, what opportunity that we've written is that going to solve? And they really struggle. And they hate that, and that's good. Because then we start to think, you know, especially when you're, I don't know about any of you when you do workshops, but when you go, let's get all the ideas that we've got out and put them on a board. And everybody does that, and they love it. And you go, cool, right, we're not doing any of those, do it again. And they hate it. It's like, oh, I can't. So read up on opportunity trees. Teresa Torres, she's ace. FYI, if you get her into the building, she's very expensive. This is, I've fallen foul of the terrible image quality. However, I've got good reason for this. So when we talk about people problems, first, I'm just going to give you a quick example of how technology changes people's perception of things just through a simple image. When we've been doing stuff in the past, we've often fallen foul of just making things. So it's very easy to just go, we're going to design our way out of these problems. And one example when we were launching the Guardian website was around density. So we'd made this big site. It was too big. People complained. I'm sure many of you were complaining. I'm sure it was you. People in this room. People all over Britain hated what we'd done. So we tried to work out how we could make the site denser, let's say. So smaller, sleeker, and so on. And we did loads and loads of rounds. We did months and months of design. And we realized that we were focusing on the wrong area of this problem. We were focusing on the end and going, how do we present what we've already got, rather than looking at the people and how to solve it for them. What are they using? Why are they doing it? And so on. So as an example, this is a picture of the July 1st marches in Hong Kong. They've been happening every year since 1997. This is 2004. It's very blurry, but you can see there's banners, lots of blurry shit, whatever. This is 9 years later. No banners. Well, there's a couple, some placards. But look at the lights, look at the phones, look at the technology, look at how it's changed. And that change is obviously a metaphor, but it's changed in the way that people use their stuff, how they gather information, how they challenge other people. And this gives us loads of areas to sort of look at, especially within news. The last one is very prevalent, especially now. People will write things on Twitter, and immediately someone might debunk it, or they'll challenge where the sources come from. What is the truth? Where's the fake news coming from? This is a good thing. Like it's very good for the future of politics, for the future of, getting information out and making sure it's the right stuff. Something that I think is important for us, especially when it comes to differentiating ourselves, is understanding what people already know and how we can tell them either something different or build on what they know. So we're under no illusion that we're not the main source of news for a lot of people. So how do we act like that? Let's not just accept that we can take those people with us or steal them. How do we build on top of those people? And accepting that they've got choice, They can go to their news for hundreds of different places, at least 20 top quality places like the New York Times. So many of these places are now global. They've got the internet, they're on mobile. One way we looked at this when we were doing the density stuff was around time. So we would take a perceived time and effort that people would want to go to sites for and try to give a variety of content to them, and hopefully that would satisfy them. Who knows? And so we came up with this idea of fast journalism, slow journalism. Fast journalism is very much headline only, get to the point, get me through the headlines. I don't care, I just want to know. Think of it as this is like the TV. When you watch like BBC News and it goes, here's the headlines, bang, 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 bang. Now here's the fun bit. Well, not the fun bit, but here's the bit more in-depth. This is the slow news, colors, bigger images. I'm not sure if it works perfectly, but it's definitely been taken on board by editorial. They're okay with it. They are definitely bringing their own baggage with them when they come to, this is what we used to do on the old site, and they try to bring it forward. So we try to do some interesting things. Sorry, I'm getting I'm almost at my 20 minutes. Awesome, that word is broke, that's good. That was the idea. So often when we do stuff, we'll either do it in beta or we will just ship it out and to hell with it. For example, this is an internal tool that became an external facing tool as well. This is to do with video uploads with YouTube. The reason we built a tool was because rather than just uploading many videos on the same subject, it allows us to essentially put an embed on top of YouTube, so we can put multiple YouTube videos inside, because there might be reasons unknown to us that the news changes and we might need to change something quickly. This looks like shit. Sorry. So we did this. So we came up with a really quick, simple design language. This is now the new hot thing that Airbnb have released. Has everybody seen that? No one? Yeah, so so Airbnb released basically a way to create entire design languages through React. and hook the whole thing up. It's very impressive. I would definitely go and check that out. If you haven't already, it's all on Medium. And we use this to do this. So we just apply some logic. There's no massive design changes here. It's just applying logic to all the little bits that ultimately build up to something nice and big. And finally, going with the flow. So I think something that's pertinent especially within big orgs, is accepting that you're not always going to get the killer idea. Sometimes someone else has done it, and if you can take influence from that, I will show someone who just blatantly steals, but whatever. That can be fine as well. Like, don't accept that you're always going to do the new greatest thing all the time. Maybe you can take someone else's idea, repackage it, and do something really interesting with it. Obviously, these examples are for the TV. These are vlogs. You might know some of these people. They take the idea of TV, make tiny little 10-minute shows. It's all very focused on them, and they love it. Some of them pull in, like this guy, Casey Neistat. He pulls in like a couple of million views a day. That's like TV figures for like a small edge. It's not EastEnders, but whatever. So we take an idea of this and make what's called a dab, not the look at my dab. But these are square images for square videos, 1 minute long, and they go on Facebook. And they're really, really simple. You can buddy them up onto TVs. You can, they're shareable. They're really quick. And it's the idea of taking something that might be really dull or really important, and we want to try and get that knowledge, that bit of choice, and that bit of really instilled information to people really quickly. Snapchat. I think Snapchat are doing really interesting things with messaging through video. And there's obviously, of course, Instagram that have done something fairly similar. Interestingly from this, I just read an article from New York Times. I just have to read this because I only got it yesterday. The CEO from Instagram, Kevin Systrom, even though he credited Snapchat with the idea of creating stories, he argued that stories was no mere feature, but instead a brand new digital format. Ooh. So we did something similar for politics, because fuck it, It's like it's a good idea. And what's really good about this is that, I don't know about you, but sometimes Guardian articles are pretty long. So we told the editorial team that they couldn't write more than this on a screen. And so we immediately forced them, through some sort of technology, they made less stuff. And we show this in the lab, and they're like, it's great. I can flick through, look at all the things in a little bit more detail, and I can go into some if I want to. And finally, in my opinion, so this is a bit more led on the YouTube vlog style thing. It's very user-focused. It's very one person talking to you for about 8-9 minutes about one particular subject. And these do really, really well. Yeah, I'd recommend having a look at some of these. Some of them are a little bit long, and some of them are of very in-depth, difficult subjects to sort of talk about, but I think they're pretty cool. So yeah, I think screen content could end up in this kind of horrible dystopian future. Let's hope not. But at the minute, we're stuck with this type of stuff. So at some point, it will change, and I think the more familiar we are with change, we might be okay with this. Sometimes we're not okay with it. But that's, those are the breaks. Like, I think once screens and technology and content and these kinds of things change, I don't think it really matters, because if we didn't, we would end up either like this, or we'd all have CDs in our laptops. So yeah, change is going to happen. It's probably going to happen pretty slowly. And if we take all of our baggage with us, we'll end up being like this, this is a real video, by the way. He really drills into that phone. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions?
Why are you leaving The Guardian, and what are you going to be doing next?
What kind of question is that? I've been there for almost 4 years, and I think I've pretty much touched on all the different departments I wanted to. So yeah, it's time for me to go.
Where are you going to?
Tesco. I'm going to Tesco. Work on the checkouts.
Please do.
Boop.
Any more? Anyone? Okay.
How how does the Guardian measure successful designs?
Very good question. It's often measuring success depends on what kind of behavior we want to change, I suppose. But even that can be really hard. So when we're looking at understanding people's knowledge, how do you actually go about using the data we already have to then go, does this person understand what we've got? Let alone putting, say, a button at the bottom of the article saying, did you understand is it helpful? Do you actually know what's going on? Yeah, it's very hard. We have a data team very much embedded in all the different teams within the Guardian. On our Guardian Digital. And we use those data people quite heavily to go, what do we all want to learn about this page? Like, if, say, there's an article about something contentious, like Brexit, what can we do to innovate on this page to help people better understand what's going on? And then talk to them and say, what do we actually want to measure to make sure that they actually understand? So whether it's how many times they scroll up and down, do they actually go anywhere else? Can we help them to interact with us? So like through, we created something called a knowledge atom. So we would stick something that was a distilled piece of the article and then get to see how many people interact with that and then use that as a way to go, okay, maybe people kind of understand what's going on. But yeah, to answer your question in a really roundabout way, a lot of times it's inferred. So we'll take other things and piece them together and say, do we actually understand that people understand? And then maybe go into the lab and try and confirm that. But yeah, it's very hard, especially in news.
All right, thanks.
Sorry.
Anyone? Okay. Looks like we're done. Thanks, Chris. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.